to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. I want to give a special shout out, of course, before I start the show, to our Patreon family. Thank you so much for supporting us on there. We do share more information on there, and I think they're almost like 10 shows ahead, etc., etc. So definitely consider joining. And speaking of Patreon, we've also, due to public demand, we've started a new community called Karibu Nyumbani, where we're helping those who are serious about relocating to the motherland. Really, really serious. We're helping you, engage in that process, kind of, holding your hand as you do so. So if you're serious about moving and you have no idea where to start, definitely consider joining that platform. The links are down below. Today, I wanted to talk about the dangerous culture of silence that has been beaten into us, raped into us, molested into us, indoctrinated into us. And actually, it didn't even begin there. As I always say, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, which means that, whatever happens spiritually comes way before what we see manifesting physically. Well, before what we would think would take a while to manifest physically, and we almost had a chance to change the direction of our thoughts. Or sometimes we'd erase, we'd think one thing, then we cancel that thought by thinking it won't happen, by negating it, then we think it again. So that's why we saw sometimes the manifestations in our life. It's kind of like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 5 steps back kind of situation. But now that there's that lag between what we're thinking and what is manifesting has become much, much, much smaller, where you're seeing your thoughts manifesting, almost instantly. And especially the higher you go, even the lower you go, it's just that things are sped up, beloveds. Many of the spiritual veils and the spiritual heaviness is lifting. And as that lifts, the spirit world and the physical world start to merge and almost become the same. So you'll think of someone and they'll call you. You'll think of a certain situation, and you'll think of, I wish I could have this, and then all of a sudden you'll see it somewhere. And I'm not talking about the predictive programming that our phones and our iPads and all these things are doing, where they're literally listening to our conversations, and then you'll see an ad pop up on Instagram about the very thing you were discussing with your friend, and you weren't on any device, etc., etc. So there is a lot of monitoring going on there, but it's like we also have to really be aware of ourselves, because our thoughts are becoming reality at a rapid speed. So be careful what you wish for, be careful what you're thinking about, where you're putting your energy, where you're putting your attention, because it just propels it. And with this, you see that this dangerous culture of silence, where we don't speak about the wrong things that have been done, maybe within our families, the abuses that have happened. Everyone tries to throw everything under the rug, which is very religious, and act like everything okay, is what has actually allowed the Mzungu to get as far as he has gotten. And the fact that, this culture, even our own leaders, first the Muzungu beat, molested, raped it into us. And then now we saw with our dictator presidents, if you expose certain things, you'd be killed. And so, and it goes in waves. When a dictator is returning, all of a sudden you notice freedom of speech is being limited, etc., etc. But it's like, that toxic culture of silence, beloveds, it's because of fear. And with that fear, because you don't even have to say it in front of a crowd. Sometimes you just have to say it out loud with conviction in your prayer closet, and things will happen. Justice will be served. And that's something we haven't been told, but we should be aware of now. But the toxic culture, you see, the Mzungus put a spell on us, beloveds. And that spell, I don't know if you've seen the 3 monkeys, and it has the hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. And they have these monkeys like with a hear no evil, they've covered their ears. I think you can see it here, covered their eyes and covered their mouth. That was a spell, beloveds. And can you imagine they even sell those statues? I had those 3 statues in my house back in the day. I'm like, wow, I'd fallen far from the, proverbial tree of life. But this toxic culture of silence, beloveds, meant that, we couldn't even use our power. They made us too afraid to use our power, because if we declare a thing with our tongue, there is so much power in our tongue. So much that if we say it, things must change. And we're seeing, ever since this information age and everyone coming online, etc., like so much is being exposed now. Because you see, our leaders selfishly gained from that culture of silence, where they could, they could rule with impunity, committing all kinds of crimes, engaging, sleeping in the bed of the enemy, selling our minerals, selling this, selling that. So they benefited from that culture of silence, and they were even the enforcers or the policemen and women of that culture of silence that Babylon brought to Africa. And the reason they brought it to Africa, and they attached it to fear and shame. So you're afraid to speak out, or you're ashamed of speaking out. And all these are just, really figments of your imagination, like obstacles they've created. Those booby traps I keep talking about that they've put in our mind that keep you from speaking your truth. But aren't you seeing ever since, like, we're in this information age and people are starting to speak their truth? I mean, a lot of people are just regurgitating the Babylon, narrative. But for those of us who are speaking the truth, we're changing the vibration of things. We're changing things. I know you have testimonies, beloveds, of how certain things are changing in your community. And you see, when they say speak no evil, see no evil, hear no evil, let's not forget that they play with words, because evil actually means live or life. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa. Welcome back, beloveds, to Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. We're talking today about the toxic culture of silence among the melanated community, where, it's not so much about the few who speak out against what is happening against our people. It's always been a few. But it's about the majority who choose to say nothing. I think there's some famous Babylonian quote that says that, that the world is destroyed not by the evil men, but by the majority of mediocre people who do nothing about those evil men. Because the evil men are bold. The people who are implementing this end game scenario, they're bold. There's nothing holding them back. They're full on wicked, beloveds. They're full on implementing their wicked plans. But those who have truth and righteousness, are few and far between. And even those who know, because you see, they've always made you feel like you need a law to tell you what is right and wrong. That's a lie. Every melanated person has a conscience, has a scale within them, beloveds. And you feel it. You feel good when you do something right, and you feel bad when you do something wrong. It's literally that simple. Or when and something wrong means something anti-nature. But this culture of silence came from this spell. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. But it actually means, that's how it's written for you. But when it actually means see no life, hear no life, and speak no life. So literally it shut down our voices, where the voice couldn't even speak. Because in the tongue is everything, beloveds. Major decisions are made through the tongue. And what we're seeing now is the world is spiraling down a dangerous path because of this toxic culture of silence, which has now been compounded by the crazy censorship that's happening everywhere. where once you're told it's a lab leak, and then if you say it's a lab leak, your channel's taken down, then actually it was a lab leak. So now what happened? I mean, there's just so much. So many of our powerful voices have been silenced or taken off social media. They're fighting for it. The ones who are really waking up, our melanated brothers and sisters. But not enough of them us are standing behind them. So they have to keep trying to come back to these Babylonian systems to reach y'all. None of us are petitioning for them. None of us are, how many of us are really even supporting their platforms? Because many of us don't know. And this toxic culture of silence is leading many to take the mark of the beast that will just put them on in hell. Right now, we're at a crossroads, beloveds. Because heaven and hell are realities of the mind and of the spirit. When the spirit is at peace, when the spirit is in its natural element. That is where heaven and paradise and all these wonderful things are. Hell is also right here on earth, and it's being in an unnatural reality. Which, because you keep silent, so, they bring something poisonous into the mainstream and try and give it to our children. Everyone remains silent. For so long, they've targeted Black people with bio warfare. No one said nothing. Now it's a global bio warfare attack, and the same thing that happened to us is now the same thing that's happening to the whole world. Where everyone now, this is where silence has led us. This is where silence has led us, beloveds. To the mass confusion that we're witnessing today. And I know many on this channel get exactly what I'm saying. But this is the toxic culture of silence. Because we didn't say something when it was off. We didn't say something when it felt a little bit more off. We didn't say something when things got bad. We didn't say something when the world was locked down. And so when you don't say something, you don't use your voice to rebuke and push back the enemy. Because they've made so many people afraid to speak truth. But for us who have the power, who are doing the necessary work, learn to cancel things out, to return things to sender, beloveds. Because there's so much power in our tongue. Learn to speak your truth. Encourage others to speak their truth. And that's what's so great with everything that's happening right now. Is that now, before people, there was so much shame around many of the abuses that people had experienced as children, etc., etc. But now it's just like in this culture, it's almost like, that it's becoming easier and easier for people to share their experiences and not be looked down on or looked like they're dirty or they're this or they're impure or whatever. Many things are changing. The vibration is changing, beloveds, but we have to fight for it. It's not just going to happen like that. And like 99% of the fight is here and here and here. It's not here, you know what I mean? It's not punching someone out physically. It's taking someone out spiritually, man. I've said so much. But the spell that people are under right now, this Armageddon zombie apocalypse spell, is partly because of this toxic culture of silence. So break it in your own life. Break it in your family's life. Encourage your children, your significant others, your partners, your relatives, your extended family to talk about that. If you have siblings and you guys went through something that was, try talking about it. If some don't want to hear it, that's fine. But the minute you release it, it loses over 80% of the hold it had on your life. And we can see the minute we've started discussing Waking Up Africa, how so many things have been exposed. And I mean, it always looks worse before it gets better. But we've learnt about what the Chinese were doing here, what the French were doing here, all because people started breaking that vow of silence and speaking their truth fearlessly, sharing the news fearlessly. And so we're in the worst of times and we're in the best of times, beloveds. But don't allow them to shut one of the most powerful swords you have. The sword of truth is this. Your words. Use them wisely, use them powerfully, use them effectively. Tuko pamoja.